Hey, welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. I am excited to have you here, and today it's just me. It's just me and you hanging out. No guests today, but we got a pretty cool topic that we're going to dive into today, and it's the 5 leadership challenges every service manager faces, and more importantly, how to overcome them as a leader in the business and the owner. To me, I think the service manager is one of those positions that if you can get that person in a good spot where they can run a department, it can absolutely change your business. I know for Kristen and I, when we got a service manager to the point where they could manage the day-to-day of the technician in the field, it just gave us the space in order to be able to go work on the business. So we could start being strategic versus just being tactical and putting out fires. And honestly, I'll never forget the day that one of my best service managers walked into my office and he said, "I don't know that I can do this anymore." And honestly, it wasn't that he was lazy. He wasn't incompetent. He was drowning. And he was drowning in technician drama. He was drowning in scheduling chaos. He was just overall drowning in problems he didn't know how to solve. And here's the hard truth. I had to throw him into the deep end without ever teaching him how to swim. If you're a home service business owner listening right now, there's probably a good chance you've done the same thing. Now, it's not because you're a bad leader. I certainly didn't think I was a bad leader, but because nobody ever showed you how to build and support a real service manager. So today we're going to dive in and try to fix some of that. In this episode, we're going to walk you through the 5 biggest leadership challenges your service manager is facing, and again, more importantly, what to do about it. Because when your service manager becomes a true leader, everything in your business changes. After 20 years of being in the home service industry, I've seen this story play out time and time again. We take our best technician, we promote them to service manager, we hand them the keys and we say, "You got this, dude." And then we wonder why they struggle. The truth is, being a great technician and being a great leader are 2 completely different skill sets. And most service managers are never actually taught how to lead. So as you listen today, I want you to think about your own service manager. Picture their face, picture their day, and ask yourself this honestly. Have I showed them how to win? Or did I just throw them into the fire and hope they'd figure it out? So let's dive into challenge number 1. So the first thing is making the shift from technician to leader. Like your service manager was probably promoted because they were the best on the wrench. They could diagnose any problem, they could fix anything, and customers loved them. They were kind of like your go-to person. So naturally you said, "Hey, you're awesome. Let's make you the service manager." But here's what happens. Now they're supposed to lead a team, manage schedules, drive revenue, hold people accountable, and nobody ever taught them how to do that. So what do? Well, they end up going back to what's natural, and they go back to what they know. So they keep jumping on service calls. They struggle to delegate because it's faster to just do it myself. They feel weird giving direction to guys that they used to eat lunch with in the truck. They stay focused on technical problems instead of people and systems. Sound familiar? So here's the real cost of that. When your service manager is still acting like a technician, you don't actually have a manager. You have an experienced technician who's really not managing anyone. Your team lacks directions, problems don't get solved at the root, and you as the owner are still running everything. So what's the solution? Your service manager has to understand that their new job isn't fixing things in the field. Their job is to develop people and build systems. That requires a fundamental mindset shift. And that shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intentional training, coaching, and support. So if you're listening to this thinking, "Yeah, that's my guy," or "Yeah, that's my gal," ask yourself this. Have I clearly told them your job is to lead, not to be the hero technician? And have I given them the tools to actually make that shift? Here's challenge number 2, having difficult conversations. Let's be honest. This is a pretty hard one. And nobody wakes up in the morning excited about having hard conversations. And when your service manager has worked alongside with these technicians for years, calling them out on their poor performance or bad attitude feels almost impossible. So what does that look like in real life? They avoid conversations about missing KPIs or sloppy work. They let issues slide. Those small issues turn into big problems. They complain to you, the owner, instead of addressing the technician directly. And over time, they start to lose respect from the team because everybody sees that problems never get addressed. Here's the real cost with that. When difficult conversations don't happen, your top performers get frustrated. They're watching underperformers coast. Culture starts to deteriorate, good people leave, and you, the owner, end up playing bad cop while your manager loses credibility. So what's the fix? We've got to stop treating difficult conversations like a personality trait. They're just not confrontational. No, direct conversations are a skill. Skills can be taught. Your service manager needs framework. They need a language. They need a simple process on how to approach these conversations with confidence and clarity. When they learn how to address issues directly and respectfully, two things happen. Number one, they earn respect from their team. And number two, problems get solved before they spiral. So again, as the owner, you got to ask yourself, have I ever actually trained my service manager how to have tough conversations? Or did I just assume they'd figure it out? Challenge number 3, understanding your KPIs. Your service manager knows how to read a pressure gauge and all the technical things. They know how to do superheat, super cool if they're in the HVAC space. But if you ask them about average ticket, conversion rate, revenue per technician, you might get a blank stare. So what does that look like day to day? They make decisions based on gut feel instead of data. They don't track technicians' performance consistently. They can't really explain why revenue is up or down this month. They miss opportunities to coach techs on sales and service because they don't see the patterns. And here's the cost of that. You can't manage what you don't measure. Without understanding the KPIs, your service manager is flying blind. Revenue becomes unpredictable, underperformers hide in plain sight, and growth stalls because nobody really knows what's working and what's not. Now, I'm not saying your service manager needs to become an accountant, but they do need to understand the 5 to 7 KPIs that drive profitability in your business. And more importantly, they need to know how to use these metrics to coach their team and make better decisions every single day. So here's your ownership question. Have you clearly defined the KPIs that your service manager is responsible for? And have you showed them how to track them, how to read them, and how to use these numbers to lead? If not, that's not your failure. That's a training gap. Challenge number 4, building systems that scale. In a lot of shops, everything runs through the service manager's brain. There's no documented process, no playbook, no real systems. If that person is sick or on vacation, chaos ensues. Phones ring off the hook. Nobody knows what's going where. Everybody's asking, what do we need to do about this situation? You are constantly reinventing the wheel for the same reoccurring problems. Customer experience is inconsistent, and it all depends on who answers the phone and who runs the calls. New hires take forever to get up to speed because there's no clear way to train them. And the business can't really grow because everything depends on one person. Here's the real cost of that. Without systems, your business can't scale. Your service manager becomes the bottleneck. They burn out trying to keep up with all the plates spinning, and you can never truly step away because the whole operation depends on them being there. So, what's the solution? Great service managers need systems that run without them. Documented process, checklist. They need established routines that they can ensure consistency. This isn't about creating a bunch of red tape or bureaucracy. This is about freedom. Systems free up your managers to lead instead of constantly firefighting. And then that creates a business that can actually grow. So again, as the owner, have you given your service manager the time, support, tools, and system? Or am I rewarding them for being the hero who puts out all the fires? Challenge number 5 is leading without burnout. So let's talk a little bit about that. Your service manager probably is working 50 to 60 plus hours a week. First one in, last one out, Their phone never stops ringing. They answer technicians' calls at nights, on the weekends, and it's about stuff about tomorrow's schedule or issues, or honestly, just to complain about something. They're skipping lunch to handle emergencies. They're taking work stress home and snapping at their family, and they feel like they can never get caught up or get ahead. If that sounds like your service manager, you're on a collision course with burnout. And burnout doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow burn. And eventually, the whole thing blows up. When your service manager burns out, you lose them. And replacing a good service manager is incredibly expensive, and it is incredibly disruptive to you, your business, and your culture. On top of that, their burnout spreads to the team. It creates culture of stress and chaos and, honestly, uncertainty. So what's the solution? Leadership is not about working harder. It's about working smarter. Your service manager needs to learn how to prioritize ruthlessly. They need to delegate effectively. They need to set boundaries. They need systems and support structures that prevent them from becoming the bottleneck. And they need permission from you to lead in a sustainable way. So many people will take a service manager, especially when they're a top technician, and they'll put them in the role, and then they'll say they're the service manager, but they don't really give them the keys and the tools and the ability to just make it happen. So ask yourself, am I expecting my service manager to be available 24/7? Have I modeled healthy boundaries myself? Or have I accidentally built a culture where burnout is almost like a badge of honor? Here's the bottom line. These 5 leadership challenges are not character flaws. They're skill gaps. And skill gaps can be filled with the right training. If you're listening to this and thinking, man, my service manager is a good person. They're loyal. They work hard. They are just overwhelmed. You're not alone. That's exactly why I created the Service Manager Academy. After building multiple successful home service businesses over the past 20 years, I've learned what separates good service managers from great ones. And I've distilled those lessons into live, interactive training that gives your service manager the leadership skills they actually need. No fluff, no theory, just real training from someone who's been in the trenches. Inside Service Manager Academy, your service manager will learn how to make the mental shift from technician to leader. They'll learn the frameworks for having difficult conversations with confidence, the key KPIs that matter and how to use them daily. They'll learn how to build systems that scale without adding a bunch of complexity, time management and delegation strategies that prevent burnout, and how to build a culture that attracts and retains top talent. This isn't a pre-recorded course they watch alone in the dark. It's live training with weekly implementation support and peer accountability from other service managers who get it. Because here's what I know. When your service manager becomes a true leader, everything changes. Your technicians perform better, your revenue becomes more predictable, your culture improves, and you finally get the freedom to work on your business instead of being trapped in it. So I know we covered a ton of things today, and whether you're ready to make the investment in the Service Manager Academy or you're going to implement it yourself, no matter which direction you go, here's all I say. I encourage you to take action. Take action. That is the biggest thing that stops businesses from growing, is just taking action. And again, whether it's the Service Manager Academy or whether you do it yourself, it doesn't matter. Just do something, right? So now, I will say, if you want to find out more about the Service Manager Academy, you can learn more at servicemanagertraining.com. Again, that's servicemanagertraining.com. So let's turn your service manager into a leader your business needs. I'm Justin Deese. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.